Hey tea friends, welcome back to Jesse's Tea House. I'm your tea guy, Jesse. Thanks so much for watching another tea video. And we have a really fun tea that is one of the 7 teas that are featured in my Sisterized mini Tong, or I guess if you got the big one, the mega Tong. Inside of this is 7 individual tea coins, which we have right here. These are the tea coins. If you're saying like, hey, isn't there one missing? Watch the last video that came up a week before this, 2 weeks. I don't know how quickly I'll be able to get this out. But basically inside this hand-packed Tong, which is made of bamboo leaves and is the traditional kind of wrapping for pu'er tea cakes that we have made, special for Jesse's Tea House. We have 7 different teas from Sisterized Tea Mountain. She lives in Tianjiazhai in Yunnan, China. That's part of the ancestral home of the tea tree. So they have ancient tea trees there that are hundreds of years old. And the tea that we have is one of these ancient teas that we're gonna be trying today is the Sisterized white tea. So we've had a couple of Sisterized white teas on the site, including the 2008, which we only had like 130 cakes of or something like that and sold out, I think in like 1 day. This Sisterized white tea is a little bit younger, but it does come from ancient trees. They're all over 100 years old. It's a really good white tea. I remember when I got this, I was a little bit worried that the younger white tea might not have all of the herbally, floral, nice flavors I wanted from the white tea, but I was very happy with this white tea. Showing you guys a close-up of the tea coin. White tea is actually named for these white hao, which are little hairs. These white hairs that are on the white tea. That's what gives the white tea its name. White tea is also special because it's the least processed version of tea. Now, when I say processing, people think of like, you know, adding sulfates or adding chemicals to keep something fresh. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that since all tea comes from one tea tree, like one tea plant, the Camellia sinensis tree, because all of the tea comes from one tree, whether it's white tea or green tea or red tea, or black tea, yellow tea, or oolong tea. These different types of teas are made from the same leaf, but then you do different things to them after you pick them. And that's what I mean by processing. If you wind up taking the leaves and then withering them and then putting them into a little cylindrical oven to be able to heat them and then roll them and then leave them to wither and then do this process several times, you're gonna create a green tea. And if you just take the leaves and sun dry them, you get white tea. So this is very simple. It's picked, it's withered, it's dried. That's what makes white tea. A very fresh, clean flavor, and it's really good for people that are looking for sort of a tea that is sweet, floral, but still with a little bit maybe more depth to it than a green tea. All right, we're dropping our tea coin in, and here we go, in with the water. These tea coins are loose leaf tea that have been pressed into this coin shape. So it's just loose leaf, it's just in order to save space during the old days of the tea horse road trading route, they would press the tea into these cakes so they could carry even more of them on the backs of donkeys. And if you go, I have pictures of the Yiwu ancient city, which I visited in Yunnan, which was the start of the ancient tea horse road trading route. And you see all of these tongs packed onto the baskets that are strapped onto the donkeys, and those donkeys would go all the way from Yunnan all the way up to the highlands in Tibet. And so this being the traditional way of doing tea, we've innovated by making it smaller sizes. In China, you would generally see a 357 gram cake, and then 5 of those is 2.5 kilos. That's a lot of tea for most people. This is our big Tong, or the full Tong, which is a 50 gram cake of each of these 7 teas, so 1 of each, 7 different cakes. And then the mini Tong, which is the one that's in the sampler, and it's the one that's in the subscription box. This guy is 7 mini coins. So I've left this guy to steep a little bit longer when opening up, and that's because I find that the best flavor from white tea comes towards the middle, and when you have a pressed tea like this, it actually needs a little bit more steep time to open. Previously, I did the everyday show pu'er, but because those leaves were so small, we were able to get a wash steep, like the wash steep advanced a lot quicker. This, however, you can see the tea is still very light, very clean, very clear. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice white tea. And you can see the hao, the silvery hairs floating in there. That's a good sign. It means you got a lot of good nutrients in your tea. However, because we have better steeps coming up, I'm going to pour this out on our tea pets and use it to wash the cups. If you're like, hey, I paid a lot of money for this tea, I want to drink the wash, do it. Not a problem. I'm just saying that this is how it's prepared in China, and give it a try, see how you like it. Enjoy the fragrance. Very nice, like it's kind of this mix of herbal and fruity. And the herbal is just like kind of a white tea staple, especially as it ages, it gets kind of more and more like that. The ancient tree teas have a little bit more of that herbal in there, almost kind of coming to an herbally funk, especially if you age them long enough. But the floral scent is not just found in white teas everywhere, but also I find that Sister I's tea in particular kind of has a little bit more like juicy fruitiness to it and floral scent than, you know, other white teas that I've had. Some of which are, again, really nice, but like kind of more on the bolder side. This is kind of more on the fruity, juicy side. So we have the second steep over here. Each of these tea coins, because they're different types of tea, is gonna open at a slightly different rate. If you see this coin here, it's still very clearly not fully open, but the leaves are getting inundated. It has a really nice yellow color already in the tea. We could totally drink this right now, and so we will. Use my filter, pour into the Gaiwan. Again, if you don't have this equipment, we have all the equipment on the website, but even if you don't have equipment, you can throw one of these in a mug. I recommend, if you're gonna do that, having 2 mugs, one to steep the tea, let it brew, pour into a second mug, and then that way you basically have your leaves, just like here, not being covered in water, not steeping, ready for the next steep. In this way, you can even use a couple mugs and make multiple cups of tea for multiple people pretty quickly just by pouring in the mug, and then being able to distribute. So here we go, Sister I's Everyday White Tea. Cheers, look at that. Very nice color. See if we can show the hull there. Yep, very, very cool. Oh, that looks excellent. Here we go. Excellent. Beautiful, great white tea. Cheers, everybody. Ooh, yeah, juicy. Sister I's teas have this sort of like, as I say, that juicy, fruity flavor to them. It's unusual to have that much of that flavor in a tea that's only been aged a couple years, but that's the benefit of getting the really good, high quality original leaves. A lot of people are like, hey, I had one white tea that was good, one white tea that was not so good. What's the difference between them? You want really good leaves. And obviously, being a tea guy, like trying to identify what are good leaves is a big part of my job, and that's what I try to do, find good leaves and get them to you guys. You know, especially because I drink a lot of tea, I want something in there that's gonna be different from the other teas I've had. This tea is like fruitier and juicier than other white teas I've had. As we get into further steeps, you're gonna get more of that herbal flavor coming out. So I want there to be something distinctive about the flavor that's gonna be good, even in comparison to every other tea that I've had. And if you haven't had enough white teas to make those comparisons, great. You're starting from zero, start drinking, just enjoy the tea. I always say, like, the best way to get better at drinking tea is drink a lot of tea. Luckily, that's the fun part, right? I always feel like people put too much pressure on themselves to be like, oh, well, I really like this. I like the aesthetic. I like the ritual of making the tea, but I just don't have the palate. And I never use that word because it's like, one, I got into tea as a hobbyist. I just went to the Beijing tea market and drank a lot of tea. I didn't do any sommelier courses. I didn't do any sort of like Chinese medicine training. And so I was able to get into this through just trying to learn. And in hindsight, I can't think of a better way to have learned. I don't think it would have been better if I had gone to some sort of fancy class in the beginning. There's nothing wrong with getting a sommelier's license or stuff like that, but I know so many talented tea people and so many like amazing tea people in China, and very few of them have any sort of degree. All right, we're gonna do the second steep. Here we go. Bam, steep in there. If you have a coin like this that is kind of slow to open, you can also give it a little bit of agitation from the lid. One of the good things about white tea is you can steep it many, many times. You can steep this one easily 10 times. In a Gaiwan like this, it's a 4-ounce Gaiwan, so that's like 40 ounces right there, easily. Depending on how weak you would like the tea, if you're willing to just let the tea get weaker and weaker and weaker, 15, 20 steeps. Don't feel bad if you're not gonna drink 20 steeps. Sometimes people are like, I can't even drink it because I don't wanna sit and drink 10 steeps. Drink as much as you want. No one's forcing you to do anything. And if you have extra leaves at the end, I do recommend, if you're still feeling like, I just can't bring myself to drink this really great tea and know that there's still extra steeps around, what am I gonna do? Take the leaves, put them in any sort of vessel, put some cold water in it, and cold brew it overnight. And whatever extra energy is in those leaves, you'll be able to get out. But for now, we're drinking it hot. Really, really pretty, pure color. Very, very nice. Yeah, look at that. You can see my smudges on the glass because it's so clean. You just see immediately right through it. So cool. Clarity is one of the big things I want from the tea. If it's muddy, that's not a good sign. Here we go. Cheers. Second steep, more like oomph getting in there. First steep was very juicy and light and sweet. Second steep, the body is opening up, and I know it'll continue to open up because the leaves aren't even fully open. But it's still got the juiciness and like fruitiness. I almost get like an apricot, stone fruit sort of thing, a peach. The aftertaste is really nice. A huigan, as I say a lot, the aftertaste is one of the things I'm really looking for. It's one of the ways that the high-end teas are very different from like a tea bag. Some of the middle flavors of a tea bag are gonna be similar to some of the middle flavors of a high-end tea. But the high-end tea is gonna have kind of richer high points. It's gonna be sparkier. It's gonna have a lot more energy in it. It's gonna have kind of nicer, smoother low notes rather than bitter low notes. And then after it goes down, the aftertaste is just like, there's no comparison. I really like the aftertaste a lot better on these teas. Cheers. Another one of the fun things about this is that all 7 of these teas are all sisterized teas. So not only are you getting a sampler, but it's all samplers from the same mountains that her and her family run. She has a couple mountains that she has either her family owns, her family has leased, or her cousins own, or her cousins have leased. So basically between the family, they have a bunch of people around the Tianjiajai area that have farms that they use to grow the leaves. Every year they bring in a crop and then they turn some of that crop into cooked pu'er, some of that crop into raw pu'er, some of that crop into white tea, some of that crop into red tea. And then they have different levels of it as well. So they have the 1,000-year trees, they have the 500-year-old trees, they have the sort of 100 to 300-year-old trees in there. They have younger trees they planted that are only 20 or 30 years old, and those can make cheaper teas that they can just kind of sell on Taobao or whatever. Oh, that's really good. So it's really nice to be able to work with that family. In April, I took my entire tea team over to Sister Eyes Mountain. She was so nice to us. They slaughtered a whole pig and we did a whole pig barbecue, which was really nice. She took us into the tea mountains to try really amazing raw pu'er right next to the trees that it was picked from. She hosted our whole team up there and everybody had such a great time hanging out with Sister Eyes. I'm so glad how this has worked. Like, she has good tea, we get it to you guys buy the tea, you guys support us to be able to go there and to make more videos and to find more teas. And it's just kind of this like virtuous cycle. I'm so excited about that. I'm gonna get the next steep in here. There we go. Start letting this guy open up. And it's actually pretty wild because it has an amazing flavor and it's still opening up. We press these fairly light, so you're not gonna have too much trouble having them open. It's kind of coming apart already with a little bit of agitation. Normally there'd be no rush to this, but I don't wanna do 5, 6, 7, 8 steeps on this video or else it'll be 80 minutes long. If you guys would watch an 80-minute tea video of me just drinking tea for 80 minutes, let me know. I think it's too long. All right, here we go. Oh, beautiful. So clean. You see the cup through the tea completely clearly. Wow, that's crazy. I did a lot of internet stuff when I was in China as a comedian, and I really never liked this whole internet thing of like, you get famous doing one thing, like say comedy, and then you just sell like blenders or something that has nothing to do with it. That sucks, but I get it as a creator, you gotta make a living. And so I've really liked how this has worked out. I love tea, I love making tea content, and your support, cheers, allows me to go and find the best teas for you guys. That's really good. The herbal note is really coming out in the third steep here. In Chinese, they call it like a 中药味, which translates literally to Chinese medicinal flavor. But if you say that in English, nobody has any idea what you mean. But there's a whole bunch of just sort of like herbal base to a lot of the Chinese medicine seems to come out in these leaves. Again, these are all what we would call tasting notes. It's not like you pour it in whatever banana flavor and it tastes like banana. It doesn't taste like the artificial flavor of those things. It's just kind of a hint here, a hint there. Earlier, as I was saying, I was getting kind of like peaches or apricots or something like that. Now I'm getting that kind of like herbal, like licorice is not the right word because licorice is very strong, but it's almost like a tiny hint of that sort of herbal stuff. Very nice. And the coin isn't even fully open. So one of the great things about these coins, you can steep them, I'd say based off what we're seeing here, 10 times easy, 15 safe. If you really like kind of like shorter steeps and stuff like that, you could push it to 20. Great tea to have when you have a group of people around and you can kind of go through these progressions with them, have it get kind of bigger, smaller. You can also even boil this tea, like white tea in general. Like, it's not really something I do a lot, but when I'm sick, like aged white tea or highly like over brewed white tea is kind of my go-to cold remedy. So I'll take one of these coins and I'll put it in a saucepan on the stove and I'll put some water there and I'll get it to a boil, and then the moment it gets to a boil, I'll just kind of leave it to simmer. And if you like the white tea flavor, it'll get everywhere in your house, which I actually really like. My brother didn't like it as much when I did it at home once during COVID, but I was sick and he wasn't, so I got to do what I wanted. I really liked it though. You know, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do with higher end white tea. With a not so good white tea or with a white tea like a silver needle that's only the buds, you know, you're gonna get a lot of really nice fragrance, but the flavor isn't really there. And the Yunnan white tea, they don't separate the buds from the leaves. So it's buds, it's leaves, It's the whole thing that's in there. And that really gives it more of like a rounded flavor as opposed to say the Silver Needle, which is gonna be very sweet and very fragrant, but like, you know, not a ton of flavor. It kind of tastes like sweet water. And on the other end in Fujian, they have the Shomei white tea, which is all leaves, very intensely herbal, not really as much fragrance. The Yunnan white tea, because they don't separate those leaves and the buds, it all comes out very rounded. And very enjoyable. So yeah, and just sweet. I haven't said it a lot, but like there's a lot of sweetness here. When people say I want a sweet tea, something that's gonna be very nice on the tongue, it doesn't taste like white sugar, but it's really like, I don't think anyone would drink that and be like, I need to put sweetener in there. Ah, beautiful. So thank you everybody. I'm glad that you enjoyed the video. If you stayed to the end, tell me what you think. What would you like to see more videos on? What do you think about the teas? What do you think about the tongs? What do you think about the subscription? And again, thank you to all the subscribers, not just of the channel, but of the Tea Club. You know, you guys are really what allows me to run this whole company, is the people that subscribe to the Tea Club and that I know that I can just do my job and find great teas to send to you guys regularly. Like that's what allows this whole thing to work. So very, very grateful for your support. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the channel. I have a lot of huge plans coming for next year. We had a really crazy year this year with a lot of changes in policy and a lot of changes, everything getting difficult in global trade. We're trying to open our warehouses, but everything is running. We have these in the EU, in the UK, in Canada, in America. Everywhere that it goes, I have local warehouses. So if you buy stuff, I'm not shipping it one at a time from China. It's already cleared customs, like, you know, taxes paid in your area. And so if you go on, all you have to do is pay the shipping cost, which by the way, I don't do free shipping, but that's because it's cheaper for you if I don't do free shipping. If I do free shipping, I have to guess what your shipping is, and I have to guess conservatively. And so you wind up charging people more, hiding it in the price, and then giving them the free shipping. I just charge you guys what I pay, whatever the shipping price is, that's literally what we're paying for the shipping. And if you're getting the tea from the US, it's already in, it's through customs. If you're getting the tea in Canada, UK, your prices have not increased because of the US tariffs. If you're on the US side, unfortunately, we do have a tariff fee that we've attached to the regular base fee, hoping that these tariffs will eventually be taken away, you know, and we have nothing we can do. It's Chinese tea. It's coming from China. So we're just trying to do the best we can. So thank you so much. Have it going, guys. Enjoy your tea. We're gonna finish this off. Here we go. Last one. 多喝茶, drink more tea.